this meeting to order, 7:30, June 21st, 2021. Excuse me. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Roush?
Here.
Clerk Smith here. Treasurer Hart?
Here.
Trustee Babel?
Here.
Trustee Blackstock?
Here.
Trustee Knotts?
Here.
Trustee Richley?
Here. All right, join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. All right, moving into the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? I have a couple. We're going to add new business 8, which is an employee raise. New business 9, which is the PCE study for King Road, which I would like to place in front of new business 1. And also adding new business number 10, which is the Oak Street paving.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented with those additions.
I'll support.
We have a motion, we have a support to approve the agenda as modified. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda carries. Approval of the minutes in your packets.
We have the June 7th regular meeting minutes and then the closed session minutes of May 3rd, 2021.
You guys get that? So we have the closed session minutes as well as our standard meeting minutes. So
Can it
there's-
be on the same motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll support.
We have a motion, we have a support to approve the minutes for the meeting and the closed session. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We have no presentations. Sorry, I heard something. Or no guest speakers tonight, so we will move into the public hearing. So we get a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Support.
All right, we have a motion, we have support to open the meeting at 7:32 on June 21st. We gotta vote that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the meeting is open. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So, for the public, my name is Anthony Theodoro. I'm your township engineer, and I'll be going over the drinking water project plan that we presented. So, just to give a little background, I don't know if you want to see the map on the other side of the podium. Oh, okay, sorry. So, to give a little background, the drinking water pub project plan stems from the water systems reliability study that was done in 2020. So that reliability study indicated that there were several projects that were high on a priority list because the system is aged. It's beyond its life expectancy, and it had been experiencing breaks, water main breaks, things like that, that were endangering the reliability of the water line. So East China's system is required to serve not only to provide drinking water to the southern and northern parts of the town, which are kind of divided in the middle by the DTE power plant, but they're also required to provide a certain amount of fire suppression gallons at all times on demand for DTE in case there's a fire. Several hundred thousand, I believe it's over 400,000 gallons, just over 400,000 gallons is needing to be on demand for firefighting purposes. So that gives us an abundance of stored water in the system between two elevated water towers and two ground storage tanks. Well, one major ground storage tanks by the water treatment plant on Record Road. So the public hearing is an opportunity for the public to learn a little bit about the needs of the project, some of the details of how the project will affect them, both in how it's paid for, but also any kind of social or environmental impacts that they can experience during the construction or during the upgrades. So I want to cover those points in my talk, and then I can open it up for questions from the public or anyone else, regarding the details. So the first question is the need for the project. The needs are found in our project plan on page 17, and they really can be summarized into 3 reasons. The first is, like I explained in my prelude, we have an abundance of stored water. Well, the water is chlorinated to a required level by the state. And when it's stored for long periods of time, the chlorination levels decrease. Just it's a time duration where the chlorine levels remain that way before they need to be, rechlorinated. So when we have that stored water, it's not getting used because we're not having fires all the time. Then it has to be flushed. So that basically has to be wasted into in a proper way into the sewer system, which then it gets treated, or into, if we discharge and it has the chlorine removed, it can be discharged into the into a ditch or a discharge point. And so, obviously it costed money per gallon to treat that water to begin with out of the river. And so that's a cost in both manpower to do the flushing and, cost of treatment. The other aspect is that happens at all dead ends of the system where they're not looped. And that's kind of like this map, wherever you see the lines are different colors based on how big their size is. And wherever they're not looped, that's a dead line where if it's not used, that line will be flushed. And the DPW has a protocol, a standard operating procedure to flush all dead-end lines. Additionally, the towers, one on Springborn Road and one in the north part of town they call Jungle Town, is also experiencing a need for flushing due to potential chlorine stagnation, right, due to the lot of stored water. So obviously keeping those things in mind when we're building the project plan to achieve those objectives in the conceptual. The second major issue is the age of the lines. Like the reliability study indicated, in 2020 we have lines that are from 1945, and so they've done their job and served their purpose. But now what water lines experience over time is build up inside the lines, just like in the pipes in your house. Tuberculation causes the chlorine levels to decrease as it passes through them. It causes differences in pressure that are outside of our hydraulic model, and of course the risk of breaks, both breaks in the main and breaks at the valves, because the valves will be the same age as the main that they're connected to. So the line going from M29 and Point Drive all the way to Bree and M29, that line, which is indicated here on the map, is a line that is from 1945. It's asbestos cement pipe, and it also services the north end where we have the hospital, right? So all these things provide, pump the number up of its criticality, both its consequence of failure and its likelihood of failure are high. So that puts us in that risk matrix where both of those driving factors tell us we need to be pointing to that and addressing it from the water quality standpoint. So that's one of the 3 major issues. The third issue is kind of related to it, but due to the age, it's subject to valve failure, and the valves need to be serviceable in the event that we have a main break, that we can isolate the system and preserve water pressure and water quality in the remaining parts of the system. So when the DPW is not able to close the valve or it breaks when they try to close it, that causes a major challenge, because now they're searching for another way to isolate a section that requires then the residents to maybe be affected by, having to boil water and things like that. So all those things need to be avoided, especially when most of the people in the last year and a half have been at home. So you have a lot more people that were at home and that was their primary water supply, and so it's very important, and it still is the case. So that kind of sums up the drinking water quality needs. The next thing I'll touch on is some of the costs, or just kind of the breakdown that came out of those needs in terms of how that became a project. So on page 24 is a good summary of everything that we're discussing here in the project plan, and then the total and the costs associated with it. So there are 4 major items in the project plan. The first one is related to that age of pipe, the 1945 M29 pipe replacement. We have a breakdown here for engineering, contract administration, construction, and inspection for a total of $5.13 million. So that is a result of the project, the reliability study from last year, and we looked at those numbers and brought them up to date to current prices. So the second item, this is out of a total, by the way, of $6.5 million. So you can see that 5 out of the $6 million is this aged pipe. The second is meter replacement. And it's actually meters that there are meter pits, but no meters in them. And the lines as they cross into China Township. So, in this map, you have China Township is here on the top of the map. And as the lines go into China Township and come back to East China, there are no meters at these two locations. So the meter pits are there. We just have to rehabilitate those meter pits and get new, modern meters, so that way flows of water that are going between the townships are monitored, both positive and negative flow directions, and that's for how much water is being lost. So from an operation and maintenance perspective, and also from a perspective of billing, of usage, of losses during flushing. So all those things can now be accounted for. And the DPW in East China is also the DPW servicing China, so it's the same crew that's able to track down their issues and use these meters accordingly. So the total cost for the meters is $250,000. And so the third item is the Meisner water main abandonment. So on Meisner Road, there is a section of water main that was built. There's a 6-inch line and there's a 12-inch line right next to it. The 12-inch line came in after the 6, and for whatever reason at that time, they didn't disconnect the houses that were connected to the 6-inch asbestos cement pipe and reconnect them to the 12-inch ductile iron. So now there is this dead area where the water has to make it around to that line that's a dead line. And so what that does is, in the summertime, it affects the water quality at the Springborn Water Tower, because it doesn't allow for the 12-inch line to feed, unused, to then rejuvenate the chlorine levels. So you have this staleness, and it causes flushing. And so the price to reconnect that line is $163,000. Now, I will make a caveat that I have estimated when I discuss things with China, although that no longer is needed in China due to the agreements that exist. But there was a 10 times larger price when I was discussing it with them. And what I'll say is that is if the county were to make us remove asbestos cement pipe from the ground. If that were the case, then it would be different than this project plan, and we wouldn't do that. So only this project, which is to leave it in the ground, which will determine when we present the project to the county for a permit, right-of-way permit, they'll say, you know, we'll negotiate with them to leave it in the ground, and we'll show them that it's a health and safety hazard to remove asbestos and expose workers to it than to just leave it in the ground and reconnect a ductile iron line. So that's kind of the caveat to that part of the project plan. And the last item of the 4 is a dedicated supply line to the north tower. Now, so in the same sense with the north tower, what we're finding is that chlorine levels are as they are from the water plant. The DPW is measuring chlorine levels and is finding that there is excessive flushing required in that north tower. So all chlorine levels were normal at the levels required until Bree Road, and at that point it goes through its pathways through the north part of town until it gets to the tower, which basically acts like a service, the way it's hooked up. So it would get water as if it was a house, you know, and it doesn't really have that line connecting to the trunk line that would bring that level of water or water quality to the base of the tower, where it then could then mix with what we're calling like a slug of stagnant water, just kind of gets pushed around as the plant pumps to keep the levels in the tower where they are. So that line also protects us when the north part of town has a lot of valves and they're old. And when you perform a valve turning exercise or a valve turning program, most of the time here you have to have a repair team right behind you because those valves will probably break when we turn them. So you know, there's even a question about, you know, which one of those of any of those valves could be broken if you even tried to use them. And so in order to even think of doing any kind of program for valve replacement in the north end of town, you need to have that dedicated supply trunk line from Bree Road and M29 to the base of the tower so that we know the tower constantly will have feed supply to it for any future O&M and maintenance work in the north end. So in order to provide that, and that's kind of like a redundant system. In engineering, we'll always have redundant systems, so to prevent failure in any one side of things. The cost to do that was $985,000. It provides a brand new line to the base of the tower. So all that added together is $6.52 million, and so now we'll talk a little bit about how the township can finance that amount of money. On page 25, which is the next page, we have so this document is the draft of the project plan. It's not the final. We haven't submitted it yet for the state's, you know, approvals as the final project that we want to carry out. And actually, we didn't even get a review from our reviewers. They had some staff changes there, so they haven't even really reviewed or give us any comments on this draft. So the final project plan is due July 1st. So it will incorporate anything that we come up with here in this public hearing, as well as any changes that need to be made, obviously before any resolution by the board to approve the project. So at this point now, we can make different alterations to what we want to do without jeopardizing our project schedule. Page 25 is one that we kind of spotted when we were doing the sewer loan program, and so I did a similar thing with this one. I made a revised page 25, which I put in your packet. It says draft on it, and basically what it amounts to is that the rate committee needed time in order to really talk about how the township thinks they'll want to finance this. Now, I caveat that by saying it's not required for the township to decide how to finance this in the near in the next 12 months. Really, the schedule goes, we submit this July 1st, it goes to the state, they spend a lot of time going through and this particular project, making sure we're in the fundable range. Then, if we are in the fundable range for the next fiscal year, it goes to Michigan Finance Authority, they put together a loan package, it gets back to us. In that point of time, so that would be like end of July, August, then we're allowed to actually do engineering on this. So then we'll start designing, doing topographical surveys, everything the project needs, and it will be prepared for bids for contractors, which we try to time out around the winter time when contractors like to be sitting in an office bidding and not working out in the field. And that's when we would be able to have a bid process, select a contractor, and we get to July of next year, 2022, when, if this is in the fundable range for the state, they'll have a loan ready for closing. So at that point, it'd probably be a great idea to have a pretty decent plan on how the township would pay a loan, because they'd be taking one out. But we're not really taking any loans out until the loan closing. So the rate committee's already done a lot of good work in 2 meetings. We used the financial cash model tool, Waterworth. And with that tool, which our last meeting was last Thursday, we were able to come up with some scenarios. So I italicized the change in your packet there, where it says the township may decide to use existing millage revenue in combination with rates to pay the loan amount. An example of a rate schedule is as follows. And it says in year 2022, which is next year, it would be a proposed rate increase of 5%, which it's already been voted on in a previous board that it would be
8.9.
And so that actually would then reduce that.
That's
if
for
it's decided.
2021. is
Yeah, okay.
8.9.
Was 2 8s, I believe, but
Yeah.
anyway, this 2022 year would be 5% in that scenario, and then from then on, it would be 1% just tracking inflation. In our model, we use a 2% inflation rate, so you're actually only tracking half of the inflation with the rates. So with that and the amounts that we looked at in the model, how that boils down to a customer's bill is right now they're paying approximately, this is on average, $280 a year for water, their water bill. And that's basically just taking all the water rates dividing by the number of users, right, to give an average, that type of average. And then in 20 years from this year, with that new structure, it'd be at 344. So 20 years from now. So that's kind of like the gist of how the township can finance it. Obviously, like I said, the little alterations can be made all the way up to the loan closing, and even after the loan closing, as long as they only care about the payment being made. So if adjustments are made in the future because of new things, then the state doesn't have a problem with that. So the last thing, drink water here, is what the public can expect in terms of any kind of impact during this type of project. So this is where I'm going to kind of jump back and talk about how the project could be done, different ways in which the state wants us to look at alternatives and analyze these different alternatives. And so one of the things that we consider in our alternative is one that's going to have a minimum impact to the residents, major, landscape restoration or driveway restoration, things like that causes a lot of disturbance to people who are just trying to go about, their lives. And we want to try to avoid that. That also incurs costs, so it is a cost factor that we want to avoid if possible. So we're supposed to say we looked at doing nothing, we looked at doing an optimum performance, and we looked at some kind of regional alternative or just kind of an alternative to the optimum performance that would achieve the same objectives. And so the no alternative option is to continue doing basically maintenance and spot repair. The issue with that is that we know things are beyond their life expectancy, so we know we're going to have every year getting worse and worse, and that emergency repairs are way more expensive than a planned bid, with contractors being more competitive with their prices. So we'll end up doing repairs no matter what. It's just, do we want to pay double, triple the price on Christmas Eve, or do we want to do a plan and have it, repaired at the best price and in a controlled amount of time? So that's kind of the gist of our project, how that would be if we just did nothing. Now, optimal performance is what I was describing as the project we're proposing. So the option, though, that could be done is, so we are proposing to do a new water line and leaving old, asbestos pipe in the ground. It's called transit pipe. And so an alternative that is sometimes used is a method called pipe bursting. And pipe bursting is where you pull a new pipe through an old pipe, and as it pulls that new pipe through it, it destroys the old pipe that's in that line. The issue with pipe bursting is, you're already taking a material that is considered a contaminant. You're going in the same original spot with it. We don't have the best soils in East China, so you're dealing with pipe bedding material that that could have already had issues over the years if there were any leaks or anything. Now you're basically on top of that same pipe bed. But more importantly is it will disturb the residents that are on that line, because we'll have to shut down large sections of the system down. So we didn't want that route. We wanted to put a new line in and abandon old and just do tie-ins, so that the amount of time that we're impacting the residents is minimized. So they're still on that old line until we're ready to switch over, and then we do the switch over and abandon the old line. So that's why we said pipe bursting doesn't seem to fit in this project as an optimum. The other optimum option is, or optimizing option, we didn't want to go with is portable flow meters for China Township. And it would only account for when we're flushing. Portable meter could be put on the hydrant that's being flushed, and then we can account for the water that's lost during flushing. But it wouldn't account for losses in the line anywhere underground that we're not aware of. And it also doesn't take into account any return flows that we think that are we're not able to go into the meter, pull up how the performance of that has been, and look at it in a reliability study compared to our hydraulic model, because it's always good to look at the field data when we're looking to calibrate our hydraulic model, so we always know we're really representing that at its best. These types of meters that are measuring both directions will give us that data that we can download. So that helps us as well to determine if there's problems we're not aware of. And that can be like closed valves and things that we didn't know that they're closed. So that is the portable flow meter thing didn't really fall in line as an optimization. And then the last item is a chlorine dosage system. So if we have chlorine level issues, one thing that can be done, because we have staff that know about water treatment at the township, is to install a chlorine either dosage station, or really it would be like an injection system where we have an issue. This was discussed with the DPW staff and with the water treatment plant staff, and really for that type of thing to leave the plant is kind of opening a whole nother avenue in the project. And we really have to be careful with chlorine to over-chlorinate. So we wouldn't want to go the whole other way of having way too much chlorine, because that is a whole nother dangerous problem that we don't want to encounter. There's volatile organic compounds that we don't want to have in our drinking water, we're required to avoid. And so we just put just enough chlorine that it gets to the customer in a safe way. We don't want to over-chlorinate that you have that issue. And when you bring it outside the plant, out of a filtration plant like that, you're opening up that potentiality that we wanted to stay away from. So we want to try to keep things in a passive response for operation and maintenance. So that pretty much summarizes the alternatives to what we looked at. And I guess I could say that denaturing of chlorine for flushing would be another alternative. And that would kind of be like if you did nothing, at the very least, you would maybe get a discharge permit or something along those lines, which would require denaturing chlorine. So that gives me the social impacts, and I just want to make sure I covered any environmental impacts. Direct impacts to the residents. During construction, there can be noise from equipment. It doesn't involve an open trench, but there will be locations where tie-ins will be, so there will be some excavation. There will be as little as possible disturbance, but that has to be re-landscaped and things like that where we do have those tie-ins, which we'll try to identify to be the least impactful to the residents. And then we're not using any hazardous or contaminated materials, so we're trying to avoid all that with that whole pipe staying in the ground issue. And we're not dealing with any contaminated materials. And that's pretty much it. There's no real indirect impacts. And, we only have positive indirect impacts when it comes to the benefits associated with the project. So I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. And I think we can open it up to some questions. Now, the next steps would be to come to a decision on this resolution. We're required by the state for the board to pass a resolution saying they adopt the project plan in an X form. So I don't know if we want to go to that step next or
That's actually an agenda item.
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yep.
So
And
do
the
we want
resolution is included, so when they get to that point, they'll actually have it.
discussion? So that's good. So I just prelude that. So then that basically is it. If the residents have a question.
Does anybody have comments on the
Yield the podium.
public hearing? Got the words.
I just have a question on the average water bill that he mentioned, like $300.
Well, it was based off,
Low.
based off 1,500 residents, the average of all. So there's going to be some high, some lower. But I think it's how you got that number, correct?
Yeah, it's like 2933 with all customers, including China. And that's also commercial customers, commercial meters, and then dividing that by the total user rate revenues. So it's actually 280 annually, and then it's 344, I believe, in 20 years. So it is relatively low, but you have some customers who don't use a lot of water, and you have others that are industrial customers and factories that are using a substantial amount. So, but yeah, I would say the overall rates are lower.
I'm looking at my bill,
Yep.
I'm single.
Yep.
And my bill's around $600
Annually.
annually.
You're probably looking at your combined bill. He's talking only the water portion.
Yeah,
Just not the.
not sewer.
The sewer.
Yeah, good point.
Okay.
Good point.
That explains it.
Yeah,
It's still low,
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not as low as you thought.
yeah, so that'd be about half.
Any further questions, comments, concerns? No?
I just want to warn you, when we get to the part discussing of the resolution, I do not agree at all with you. If I put on my other hat as chairman of the Sewer and Water Authority, I do not agree with the North Tower project, and I will be discussing that further when the board becomes in session.
Okay, sure.
All right, if we have no further questions, comments, concerns, I will make a motion to close the public hearing at 8:05 on June 21st. We have a motion and a support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, public hearing is closed. Back into the meeting here. So we have public comment. I'm assuming that there's a couple of you that would like a word, so I would say one at a time. If you could step to the podium, and we try to limit to 3 minutes, just because we got a lot to get
Gary,
through
you're on
tonight.
the agenda.
I'm on the agenda for the waste.
Oh,
Well, I will, absolutely. Well, thanks, everybody, for allowing me this
Can
opportunity.
I, really
Trustees.
quickly, the court reporter is going to be excused. Do you want to take a quick recess?
I can be very quiet. You can
Okay,
continue.
just so you
I
know,
just
that's
wanted
what
to make
she's
sure
doing. She's
that's-
packing up.
all right,
Okay, sorry.
sorry.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Good, great. Hey, thanks again. Like I said, thanks to all the trustees. My name's Randy Newhouse. I live at 122 Merrill. And the reason I'm here is I kind of got a consensus of a couple other property owners on Merrill and some on Loretta. There's been an issue that's occurred, and it typically happens every year. Unfortunately, there's a lot of growth that occurs in the canal there, and it typically, historically, it's been treated in May to allow it from proliferating, and consequently, what has happened is causing a lot of dead fish, which allows for fishy smells. I know that a number of individuals have reached out, and we understand that supposedly we're going to be billed on, or we are being billed on our taxes, but that this is supposed to be taken care of the end of July. And I think that's probably too late, because historically, we'd like to see maybe in May and then a second round to ensure that this growth doesn't take place, because it does destroy not just the life and the fish, but it entangles the crops and things like that that are going within those two canals. And I would ask, like I said, I've got two other members from Merrill. I don't want to play, you've got more critical issues to deal with, but I did take a couple of video from other individuals on Loretta saying, yes, I don't know what's going on. We'd like to see this effectively taken care of immediately. I reached out to 12 other pond people, and I understand people are at a pause right now for getting individuals that take care of and associate and take care of their work opportunities, but there are 3 or 4 others that say that they could potentially take care of the situation within the next 2 weeks. And I would ask that the trustees,
Go ahead, finish.
I just ask that the trustees take that into consideration.
In the past, the canals were treated in the month of June, and hopefully, at a lot of times, we were pushing it, the last contract, into the first part of July, because the chemicals that they use, it's a contact, and it has to wait for the growth
Right.
in order to be effective.
Right.
In the past, we only had 1 treatment per year. This year, we're going to have 2. It is being delayed right now because of a DEQ permit, so they're just waiting on the DEQ permit. We do have a contract with the pond guy who did it in the past as well. So as soon as they get that DEQ permit, they're going to be out.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. I will tell you this, that the growth has been excessive. It's above the water line, so it's not like historically where you'd say, hey, we should treat it prior to its growth.
Right.
Right now, you can go to both ends, and I would venture to say, I'd like to see you take a boat, because I took a kayak down there and couldn't go through it. It tells you how high the growth has occurred.
Right.
So ultimately, it may be one of those annual phenomena like we had with the big flood, back in February, but ultimately, it's just something that hopefully that it could be, put on the agenda next year in advance to hopefully ensure that we don't encourage this again. So,
Right, yes.
last but not least, I'd like to add one other thing that may be taken into consideration in the future. First of all, I guess I'd like to ask a couple trustees as we go around the room here. Would you rather live on a gravel road or a paved road?
Paved.
How about you? How about you? You?
Paved.
You?
Not a trustee.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, so that's kind of a consensus. Well, Merrill is a private road. It's gravel. But what I will tell you this, and this might be something that the board needs to consider. My background's finance, and trust me, I pay taxes. I don't like to pay taxes, but hey, it's one of those evils that we love to do. I guess we say that, right? I will tell you this. If there was an opportunity where we converted that and gave the road to the township, do you realize what the cost of the assessed valuations of those homes go up and the recovery of what it would cost to pave a one-lane road for 7 houses? You guys are losing about $241,000 every 11 years. Now, maybe that's not a lot, but it's been there for about 40 years, so it's close to $1 million. Just something to consider. Don't know whether that's something that you might want to revisit. I'd love to share some of the finances that I did on it and where I received a lot of that input external. You evaluate, determine whether it's something that, hey, it's something that you want to investigate. I'm glad to issue my time and my resources. But thank you for your time tonight. I know you got busy evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody?
I think they're all
All
with
right,
me.
like I
Dang it,
said.
yeah.
Okay.
They're the Three Stooges.
All right, moving into the approval of the consent agenda. They're in your packets. If there are no questions or concerns on the consent agenda, a motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion, we have a support to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries to approve the consent agenda. All right, moving into disbursements, we have payroll in the amount of $32,081.41. Accounts payable for $94,873.87. EFTs in the amount of $11,349.97. E-checks for $302.30. Invoices of $128,049.96 for a grand total of $266,657.51.
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills.
I support.
All right, we have a motion, we have support to pay the bills. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock?
Yes.
Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. All right, we'll pay the bills. All right, moving into old business. Old business one, the SCADA modifications in the lift station. I believe, Blaine, if there was a couple questions about that item, which was, I believe, just how many lift stations were there in a little synopsis.
There is 9 lift stations, and this proposal would cover all of them.
Cover all of them. Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't hear too well. You're going to have to speak up.
9 lift stations, and the
Michael, I
proposal
think I'm
covers
probably the
all.
one that stirred this up, Blaine. 9 lift stations, 3,700 apiece, or 3,700 for all 9?
Total.
Huh?
Total for all 9.
Thank you, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, so it's basically what, we give a quick rundown, it's just the inactivity alarm.
Yes, basically, each station is controlled by a pressure transducer. As the pressure in the wet wells build up, it squeezes the transducer and the pumps come on. When the water levels goes down, the transducer releases, pumps shut off. When the transducers go bad, the stations themselves don't know that there's a problem. It'll just keep registering 6 inches or 0 inches, and we don't know that anything is wrong. The stations think everything's fine, it's low water. So this would allow us, will allow the programmer to go in there and for each station set a specific alarm for a runtime. If a pump doesn't run in a station that runs every 15 minutes, or if a station runs every 15 minutes and it doesn't, within a half hour, it would call out an alarm and say, hey, something's wrong, check it out. And each station would be a little bit different of a set time because some run more than others. But it would be a cost-effective method to add another safeguard to the system.
So the total's 37,000, or $3,738.09. So, guess we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the inactivity alarm quote for Michigan Industrial Controls for the cost of $3,738.09. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock?
Yes.
Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. Okay. Old business number 2, the Township Hall landscaping quotes. So we talked about this at the last meeting. We requested to see all the different quotes to compare. Most of the verbiage is the same. After looking through them, I mean, I would think that Maple Landscape is a great number, very local company. And it seems like they covered the scope that we requested, so.
Is there any reason to believe that Maple left something out that we wanted done?
Looking
Because
through it
the
all,
price is so much lower.
I know. And he was one of them that did not come and meet me here and go through the walkthrough of the whole thing. But there were others that did the same. So that's all he's listed everything that we've asked for him to do, so.
Well, I've noticed that one of the bidders talked about bringing in 20 yards of topsoil.
Yeah.
That's a lot of topsoil.
After taking 20 out, it said, I'm like,
And he's-
Well,
He's not mentioned that here, and so
he referenced job materials as topsoil, just not a bulk or a quantity.
right, and that's just, well, not just, but mainly they were saying to taper out that corner, taper it out so the lawnmower can easily,
he understands that that's a requirement, right?
well, that was part of the information that he was given.
No comments.
And I would think at that price, even if they did miss something, we could probably make it right and still come under most of these other
Yeah,
quotes.
Blaine can take care of
Right.
it.
Or we have plans. So. So that'd be my recommendation, is to go with Maple Lawn Care.
I'll make a motion, we approve Maple Landscaping and Lawn Service for the landscaping quote in the amount of $3,567.
I support.
All right, we have a motion, we have a support to choose Maple Landscaping and Lawn Care as our project winner, in the amount of $3,567. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock? Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. All right. Moving into old business 3, the elected official salary review committee report. So, we have really no residents in the room. But, so everybody that's in the room knows what this was about. So we talked about this early in the year. We did put a sunset date on the committee that was chosen to review the elected official salary. So that being said, the recommendation from the committee is that there would be no change to supervisor, trustee, or clerk positions, and to adjust up the treasurer current salary from $4,294 to $11,660.
Nope, 95.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the averages. To adjust up to the adjusted salary of $9,500. I apologize.
I'll have to admit, I wasn't much in favor of this. I thought the committee though did a pretty good job, and I don't have any problem with their recommendation.
How did they arrive at the recommendation? I mean, the number, I guess.
We kind of went back and forth I mean, there was a lot of discussion. Basically, like, we looked at the averages, we looked at, like, potentially every year having a, like, a reevaluation to where, like, especially for the three that are, like, actually in the office and stuff like that, like, just kind of, just, I mean, for what people do and stuff like that, I think,
So is what, based off of competitive sized townships and hours in the office and all that, basically?
yeah. And we did say we could go a little bit higher, you know, it depended on, I mean, discussion from the board as well, but.
It kind of sums it up in the report that's attached here, how we came about the different, with the comparisons of data. on
Right, at
different
9,500, it's still 23% under versus the other ones. I would just request maybe 10.5, and I don't need a yearly review.
I think the committee is recommending as a whole, as a policy. In the past, it had been done annually. And then something happened in mid-2000s, and it was no longer looked at, whether it's a cost of living adjustment or related to the CBAs, but there was an annual review, and the board voted each year whether or not to adjust those.
And I can tell you that almost every year, there was no adjustment. At least the 8 that I was on.
Usually, what the research I found was they would either match the CBAs at 2%, 2.5, or they would use a cost of living adjustment of 2 or 2.5%, historically, up until, like I said, sometime in the 2000s.
So I guess the action item for tonight would be to review the salary, so come the next meeting, we can have a resolution drafted based on the dollar amount that we agree on tonight. So,
I would agree on the committee's recommendation.
I'm open to hearing what other people have to say. I mean,
yeah, I mean, besides reading the report here, I wasn't part of that committee, so
I mean, I do think, like, looking from with the former salary for the clerk and also the current salary for the treasurer, like, it wasn't even on the chart. Like, the chart was so low, like, it was just abnormal, but.
Well, then again, it depends a lot on the size of the township and the amount of work that's required.
That's true. We looked at, like, townships that have a township manager. We looked at townships that don't, and the difference is, like, some of them were at, I don't know, 70,000. Some of them were at, 20, but.
Yeah, and some of them had full-time treasurers, and it was very difficult to go by a scale for that part of it, because some of, like I said, even the clerk's positions were full-time too, and some of the townships, and so we kind of had to go across the board and kind of equal it out the best we could. And that's kind of what we came up with, our recommendation at this point, but it's open for discussion, and
recommendation. All right, well, the recommendation is $9,500 salary. The average is 11,660. So I think a fair assumption would be to meet maybe in the middle on that, at the 10,500 mark. I think it's still below average.
Yeah.
But we're not creeping up on higher end.
Right.
So, I guess we'll just go around the room if
We should have
Just-
a motion.
we should have a motion to draft the resolution at 10,500 for the next meeting.
Well, or whoever makes the motion, whatever amount they choose. If it's the recommendation of the
I'm just
committee.
barely making you out, I'm sorry.
So somebody would have to make a motion to draft a resolution for the next meeting for,
I'll make a motion to draft a resolution for the next meeting to increase the treasurer's salary from $4,294 to $9,500 as recommended by the committee.
I'll support that.
all right, we have a motion and a support to adjust the treasurer's salary to $9,500 based on the committee, to draft a resolution for the next meeting. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock?
Yes.
Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
I'll abstain.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Rush?
Yes. Okay.
Just a really quick comment, like, budget time is when? Like,
Well, right, so please advise if this will be an immediate adjustment at the adoption of resolution, or if this would be in the next budget cycle. It wasn't something that was in the budget.
But the reason I brought that up was because at that time, we can discuss, I think, potentially a policy on the salaries or whatever, or no?
With regard to,
Like, just revisiting, like, we were discussing about having like a yearly,
well, you could put that in your resolution if you so choose,
what
to
already
be,
passed.
to be reviewed annually.
No, I will not do that. Someone else can make a resolution.
Or you can adopt a separate policy that the board will review elected official salaries on an annual basis.
Or we
I
just
would agree to
can.
amend the resolution
I don't
to
think
be
we need a policy to
immediate
do that.
effect.
We can just do that.
I would agree to amend my resolution to be immediate effect upon passing of the resolution.
Immediately. Okay. I'll support that.
We'll do something.
I will
further.
support that too.
Bring it up again.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a support to increase the salary to 9,500 based immediately off of the signature of the resolution, approval of the resolution. Any further discussion now? All right, we did roll call already.
Mhm.
So we
Correct.
good?
I believe so.
All right.
All in favor?
All in favor signify by saying aye about changing the immediate verbiage.
Aye.
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 All right. All opposed? All right. Sorry about the confusion here, folks. All right, moving into new business 1, which is actually going to be preemptive by the PCE study for King Road. So we can let Anthony go home to his family.
I don't want to let him go home. He can stay for the whole meeting. I gotta stay for the whole meeting. It's number 9, huh?
Yeah, it's not listed as number 9, so. Anthony, do you have a copy of it?
That's this
I
one
have-
here.
I have mine.
Okay.
So, basically what you're looking at here is, there's been, discussions at the end of King Road in China Township. It started where, China Township's board, had 15 homes that we count, and there's some kind of discussion that there could be as many as 18, some empty lots, that their septic systems are failing, and they went through a whole process, and they came up with a solution to pump that sewage to using grinder pumps, so each individual house would have a pump, and it would join together in a force main pipe to Marine City. They got to the point where they have a grant that pays 50% of that, they have the money. For the other 50, the total amount's like $600,000. They have a change of board, and the new board doesn't like that idea because it doesn't consider any future growth. At the same time, Marine City said they'll only take those 15 to 18 homes because Marine City has capacity at the plant. The plant's on the total opposite side of the city, down near Cotterville. So it has to get there by going through the entire city. So they said that's all they would take. So there wouldn't be any growth potential there. At the same time, East China has a developer that's interested in developing the property at the extreme south part of the township on King Road, between King Road and Bell River Road. It's approximately 100 acres. They would like to do, hopefully, it can accommodate by the current zoning 385 homes, 385 REUs or homes. And they were hoping to maybe talk to the township about maybe talking about zoning some of it industrial on King Road and the remaining the R3 residential. And that's where it's at right now. But they're willing to contribute to the sewer system if it would help them to develop their property. If we can get it to East China's plant, obviously we would, as a township, you would want your developers to get access to your infrastructure, right? Not to give that to necessarily to give that to another community or anything. So, so that instigated the question of the 26-mile road development corridor. So that is a part of basically the end of 26-mile road is there, where it ends in King Road. So then that would be interesting to the county and to the projects that they're trying to see put together for a 26-mile road corridor. But in order to talk to the county about the potentiality of them helping so that they would have some contribution, your developer would have some, and China would be able to bring their project to the table to help with this. We need to have some idea of the service district, other than just those specific users. And also to consider that just like Marine City has problems bringing their sewage all the way through their city to the plant, East China has the same problem in a way that we have to bring it across the Bell River, through a 10-inch line, up to Point Drive and around the Recore Road and bring it to the plant that way, if we were to just come in the sewer system. So there has been past ideas or projections of doing a line, sanitary line, would be about just under 2.5 miles that would go from 26-mile road on the east side of the road along King to just before Recore Road, where then it could be put into a pump station and then force main to the plant. Everything at a certain point when you're approaching Recore Road after you pass Meisner becomes lowlands and wetlands and DTE property. And so the possibility of development there would be negligible. So there would be a point where you'd stop it, you put it in a pump station, so it would all flow into a pump station, and then it would be pumped directly to the plant. So that would solve all problems of future development on the East China side if we consider that the service district. So this proposal, I define kind of what we would want to establish as the service district that we would want to bring to the county and then start discussing what contributions they can make. So this proposal is just for engineering, for our services, in which we would study a sanitary district that would be encompassed by 26-mile road, just south of Recore Road, Bell River Road, and Marsh Road. So that's as far west as we would look as a reasonable service area. We would calculate the required size of the sewer line that would run along King Road, and then the cost, the probable cost of that sewer extension, and how it would service the 26-mile road corridor. And then we would meet with St. Clair County, with China Township, and with the developer here in East China to develop a preliminary strategy for the project. So then everybody would kind of know what their what their part of it would be. The cost, I've divided the total amount in half, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to have the developer show his seriousness by picking up half of that cost, right? So $37.50 the township would do, and the developer would do $37.50. If he rejects it, then this is null and void, right?
He has not agreed to this yet.
No, he would like you guys to be the first, to make the first step, to know that, and he's made other indications of willingness to contribute to monetarily to making this work. So this is much, much less than what he verbally had said that he was willing to offer. So I think this, though, is an important step to an overall scheme, because there's certain things missing, such as, are there other septic fields that are failing? Are we just kind of only addressing fires that are, we're not taking into account maybe a fact that there could be others? I know China mentioned that there are other residents they have on Booth Road that are having issues.
They've had this problem there for years,
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, and it's only now that they're basically, the state's saying enough, they have to do something. And so, yeah, I know that it's got a long history to it, but, maybe it'll all turn out for the best if they get a gravity line. So that's where this proposal is.
Does
One of
this,
the things you're going to look at would be capacity. We've been rather free saying we have a lot of extra capacity. Well, extra is a relative term, and so part of this study is going to have to say, you've got that big service area, what is the potential, will our plant handle what is potential? I know that we've got about 0.45 million as our average right now. Peak kicks up in the high ones, and the max so far has been 2.6. And the plant's designed for a max of 3.6 for a picture of 9 hours. So while we've got considerable capacity, that's a big area, as you just outlined. We would like to, that study should include what would be the impact on the plant,
Capacity.
maximum possible, because
Yep.
we are looking at a limit. We talk about having a lot, but there is a top to this, especially when you start getting a big area. Taking 15 homes, or the new little development on the side is one thing. Taking everything from 26 to Marsh and back in, that's a whole other question, I think.
Yeah.
It should be included in such a study.
Right. So we've done a lot of what the plant can handle. When we were doing Point Drive's project, we had to do the Part 41 with the state. So we did a lot of talking about if we send them all that flood water, right? So.
That's a good idea, but I'm just a little worried about the size you're talking about.
Yeah, and so what I want to do in the study when we discuss the plant capacity is we want to provide a couple scenarios. That's like what I did in Point Drive. So obviously, we're still going forward with our sewer loan. So one part of the sewer loan is projected reductions in I&I. So we want to see the fruits of that loan in terms of reductions in this peak flows, right? So you have your regular daily flows, and then you have these peaks due to rain events. And so what we're trying to do is reduce these peaks during rain events by doing our sewer rehabilitation program. So there are going to be potentially some recapture there that's already going to go out in an expenditure. So then that'll bring that back, and then on top of that, obviously we have to put some strategy in place for a developer who wants to go in this particular market, right? So obviously, we don't want to undersize the line, and then that comes back to bite us, but we don't want to just get crazy with that line, and then like Ralph had said, the plant can't handle it. So there's going to be a limit ultimately to what East China can handle realistically, and I'll approach that in this proposal, obviously. So
All that said, you won't get an engineering study any cheaper than $3,700.
No. So I would like to have the board approve this contingent on the developer paying his $37.50 up front.
Yeah.
So we will not spend any money until that money from the developer is in hand. And then we can probably talk with China about splitting this up a little bit, but I'd say for now, let's just approve the $37.50 contingent.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say with, China Township having a a good interest in this,
Yeah.
maybe they could pay some of
Half.
that, because they've had that problem for years and
They should
haven't
pay half of
ignored it.
this, At
This is
least, I
chicken
think.
feed compared to what the project would cost if it goes.
Well, there's, the other part of it too is the reason that, I mean, this 380 home development just kind of came up, but the county's been talking with us about the 26 mile road corridor. So
Right.
this gives us an opportunity, if we can put a plan together and we
Which
decide that we.
benefits China, not us. The 26 mile, that's on
Maybe,
China.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
it's,
China.
yeah, but we're selling our services. But it
If-
also gives.
If we can handle it.
If
Right.
we can handle it, as
Yeah.
long as
Yeah.
everything's there.
The trick is, if there's a good chance, if this go through the way he thinks it might, is that we could get a sewer line down King Road, all the way to this Marine City line. And Jeff was here the other day talking about all the extra money he's got.
Right.
He's looking for a place to put it. It would be nice if he'd pick up a big chunk of putting that
Right.
sewer down.
They
the
have
line.
like
Right.
60 million for infrastructure, so we could possibly sneak into that
You're
and
talking
take care of our stuff.
2.6 miles
Yeah.
of sewer with probably 2 or 3
So
pump
when we-
stations. It's not gonna be cheap.
Yeah, when we present our service area to him, we're gonna say, we're picking up the sewer on 26 Mile Road all the way to Marsh in our service area, our service district. So we're taking the tail end of that, that's in China, but obviously, the opposite side of the road is Cotterville. And so Cotterville would be tying into that line for that section, right? So, if they ever had development, but obviously the tie-ins and that section, which is about a mile, additional mile, would be paid for by those developers, right? That would be an additional thing. What we're doing is we're making sure our line is the appropriate size to accommodate that, appropriate depth, appropriate size to accommodate a potential additional mile that the developers would handle, right? And so we're still in that service district, we're saying that's as best we can do. The rest of it, somebody else has to help out with, getting it to the freeway.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be something we can do, but.
I think it's worth $3,750 to find out how much something like that would cost.
Yep.
And to find out whether or not the guy with the big pockets,
Mhm.
Bloom, is willing to play the game.
Mhm.
And that's all we'd be finding out. If they don't want to play, then we don't have to pay anything else.
So is that the motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve $3,750 for the proposed engineering study on the engineer's estimate for a King Road sewer extension, 26 mile to Recor.
We have a motion, we have a support to approve the 3750 from PCE for this project. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock? Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Clerk Smith? Yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. All right, moving now into new
Cindy?
business one. Thank you, Anthony. That's
Should we run
good.
this through the sewer?
Is there still discussion on the resolution?
Yeah, that's a couple more
$3,700
items
Get
down.
automatically split if I pay
Sorry.
for it.
All right, back into new business one. So the DPW building preliminary design and engineers
It's
estimate.
such a small amount, I don't think it's worth the fuss with at the moment.
You have a quote, you have a quote from PCE for a preliminary design phase, an engineer's estimate for a new Department of Public Works building, and
Excuse me a minute,
demolition of the old
Blaine.
wastewater
Blaine,
facility.
excuse me for a minute.
Yes.
Thought occurred to me, what Nicole just said. You want to run this
By China.
approval of this proposal through the Sewer and Water Authority? That way it's automatically split between the two townships.
Yep.
That makes sense to me.
Does.
Yeah.
I think China should have a cost associated here
Send it
too.
to the
They have a
Sewer and
great
Water
benefit.
Authority. Well,
Yeah.
they don't have a damn meeting until next Wednesday.
Yeah, they benefit. Like,
Mm-hmm,
yeah. They've had this issue for many, many years.
exactly.
You know, putting on my other hat, I don't see any reason why this should not be done by the Sewer and Water Authority. We have sufficient funds to do that sort of thing in the township. And since this is definitely a joint project in the sewer line between,
China.
the only problem is the language in the agreement does not talk about sewer lines.
Right.
It talks about water lines to a great degree, and it talks about the plants, but it does not talk about sewer lines. That's almost, I'm gonna shut up. That's almost an agreement between the two township supervisors and their boards. Never mind. I'm sorry, Blaine.
All right, Blaine, you have the floor.
This is a proposal from PCE for a preliminary design and engineer's estimate for a Department of Public Works buildings and demolition of the old wastewater plant. Some of you have been by our shop and seen what we're working with and seen the old sewer plant. And it's definitely time to consider tearing it down and starting over.
So basically, we know that we approved a mobile office for the DPW. That was kind of ahead of this. So, and we should have some grant, some COVID money coming from the state. We're kind of thinking about maybe that would be a little pot to get started on this project. But the initial cost, initial design phase at 5,000 is what we're looking for at this point.
I've been down to his den down there, yeah. You talking about doing a whole new building or rehabbing the one you got?
They would evaluate what we have and see what the options are, if it'd be better to start over or add on. And they would also evaluate Springborn, where our garage is over there, and see if that would be a better site than the current site at Recor.
I'll make a motion that we approve the quote from PC Engineering Design in the amount of $4,960 to provide preliminary design engineering estimate for new DPW building.
All right, we have a motion, we have a support to approve the quote from PCE at the cost of $4,960. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock? Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. PCE's gonna be busy.
I was gonna say, yeah.
All right, new business 2, the sanitary sewer cleaning and CCTV annual project.
This is our annual project, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have 3 quotes from 3 different companies for this year's phase of the annual cleaning and cammering project. In 2008, they began cleaning and cammering the township sewer mains, and with the completion, if this is approved with the completion of next year's project, the township would be done and they'd be starting over again. This phase would be an area from Bree Road north to Oak Street and St. Clair Shores Boulevard going west to St. Clair Highway, the northern end of the township.
And your recommendation would be to go with Michigan Pipe. You have a good relationship with them.
Very
They
good
helped us out
relationship.
during
Yes.
the flooding as well,
Yes.
and their price is considerably cheaper. So, we have this budgeted for anyways.
Yes, it used to be a specific line item, now it's in the sanitary sewer, or I'm sorry, the wastewater repair and maintenance service, but it is budgeted for.
I'll make a motion to approve contractor proposal 2020 sanitary sewer cleaning and CCTV project and award it to Michigan Pipe Inspection. Is that correct? $79,093.52.
I'll support that.
All right, we have a motion, we have support to approve Michigan Pipe Inspection from the amount of $79,093.52 to do the annual sanitary sewer cleaning and CCTV. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock?
Yes.
Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. All right, that's approved. New business 3, the approval or adoption of the DWSRF project plan, which we just had
Copy
the,
of this, too.
we just had the public hearing on.
Should have gave a copy of this to Randy.
So based on what we've discussed and then talking with the Sewer and Water Authority, it would be in my opinion that we adopt this plan with the removal of the last item, which is the installation of 3,300 feet up to the north water tower.
So we would delete that from the resolution?
Yes.
Well, unit of support for that. I very much agree. Having a lot to do with the quality of the water the last 8 years, I have somewhat of a disagreement with our engineer as to whether or not the quality of the water has been affected. I know he knows this, so I'm not trying to talk down to you, Angela, but Anthony, but the water samples that they take do in fact show a lower amount of chlorine in them, and then it flushes and goes back up. I did a little research. When it leaves the plant, it has 0.2. That's what they try to set it for. So it goes out through the lines and makes sure there's always a little chlorine in the lines that keeps the bacteria from growing. But the only requirement at the farthest end, when you test it at all, is that you are able to detect a trace of chlorine. And I do believe we've been trying to shoot for 0.01, but 0.01, I think. And we've had I looked at the records, the lowest one you ever had was a 0.4. And that's hundreds of times greater than a trace. So from the point of view of the Water and Sewer Authority, who's responsible for the quality of the water delivered, there is not a quality problem with the water at that tank. Several years ago, we had a stratification issue, which has to do with what he was talking about, the water just moving up and down and not mixing. The authority had a mixer installed in the tank to stir the water and keep it mixed, and since that time, the number of cases where we needed to do some flushing have dropped off dramatically. I also checked this, in the past year, we have flushed it once. And we don't flush the entire tank. Blaine gets together with Loper, and they, instead of refilling the tank when it's half empty, they let it drop to about a third. And then Blaine flushes it from there. So we're not talking about losing 500,000 gallons when they have to dump the tank. We're just talking what they take about. They have done that. They have only done that once. Now that doesn't say that there's a lot of hydrants in the north end, and there are a lot of hydrants all over that are flushed on a routine basis. But in the north end, there is not a water quality problem. Adding this extra line to the north tower, in my opinion, and I have discussed this with my board, is a solution looking for a problem. It may sometimes happen in the future, but what we are doing right now provides adequate, essential clean water to our residents, and we do not need to saddle our township residents with a $1.1 million project that's not needed. And at that point, I'm going to shut up.
So with that comes the chance to have to spend a little bit of money down the road with possibly, what do we call that, a discharge permit? Discharge permit to flush the water, because apparently we've been running without one, as well as if we do have small traces of chlorine, having to denature the chlorine as a small process. But that's something that we can deal with down the road. So, what do we gotta do for this? We gotta read this whole thing?
And if that was a motion to drop that particular item from the project, the dedicated supply line to North Tower, I will support that motion.
You mean deleting the last note?
Yes, the last note.
All right, you made that a motion?
Yes.
And Ralph supported it?
Yes.
Okay.
So do I gotta read this whole thing?
If we're adopting it tonight, we have to read it.
I would read it down to, yeah.
All right.
We've got a,
I would like to add one thing to this. The water plant is responsible for the water quality leaving the plant. I am the license holder for the distribution system. I do want to make it known that I do have reasons for concern up in the north end as far as how the water gets routed through the northern portion. With that being said, I took my concern to the engineers, and this was their proposal for it. But I don't want I don't want to lose sight of the fact that there is reason for concern, and there is configuration issues up there. How we choose to move forward with that, there may be other options, but I want it to be known that there is reasons to look at this and consider this.
Anthony, if we were to leave it in the draft proposal for now, is there an opportunity to delete it later?
The state would love to see you delete, amounts, because it makes it easier to fund. Remember, we're not knowing if we'll be in the fundable range this year. We'd be rolled into the following year. So if we're in the fundable range this year and we decide to go with this and then decide later we want to remove almost $1 million, it'll just make us more fundable because it'll suck us up into the fundable range. We're like 8 from the cutoff right now. We also had our SWIP approved. We did the source water intake protection, and today we received our certification from the state saying that we have we're approved. So that gives us an additional 10 points on our score. So that's going to push us up as well. So we can, if we do this, the only problem is, it's not a problem. We presented to the public this. So if we do a resolution to remove something, they might make us publish it to the public saying we're removing it. Obviously, if you added something, it would be much harder. It probably wouldn't be allowed. But I think if we removed it, the state might tell us, you have to notify the public. I don't think they'll make us do another public hearing, but they'll make us notify the public that we've removed that item. And, I don't know if we'll have to be required to give them a say. We might have to do that in a board meeting,
But from the state level and the loan configuration, there would be no issue with deleting this after today's date.
I don't think so. This is our project plan, right? When we go, I haven't done any major engineering on this. This has all been the application and the requirements of the state. Once I get into the engineering, the first thing I'll do is a hydraulic model, right? And also I'll take all the chlorine testing that's been done and have actual, data, scientific data to make a decision, and then it'll feather itself out or play itself out.
You keep saying that, and I'll ask again, I'll ask Blaine, have you ever had a testing that's been unable to find a trace of chlorine? That's a state requirement, you know it. Have you found one where that you were unable to find a trace of chlorine?
It has been extremely close to being able
I can't hear you.
It has been extremely close to not.
It's been close, but it's still a trace, and that is that's a state requirement.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm still saying that we don't need to spend $1.1 million to fix something that's not broken. I realize you have to do a lot of flushing with the hydrants and stuff like that. But that line, the north tower, is not required. And I'd ask you, what would the state think of us asking for money to put a line in that we've been arguing about is not required? But they're not using their fund. I don't think they look favorable on that either.
I think that because I also say it's a redundant line, and they're all for redundancy from a safety standpoint, they wouldn't want to jeopardize they wouldn't want to make themselves liable.
I don't think that would be a problem.
Being overtly safe is less risky for them than being under safe, and they're now they're in the media, right? So they'd rather see you take their money at interest and pay the 2.12% interest and pay them back, because they get their money back, right? So they're kind of like a bank. So and you're being too safe, I don't see them saying, we don't want you to be too safe, or whatever, or you're putting in something you don't need, but you're not doing something you need, you're not avoiding doing something you need. You know, then that's the kind of like, you should have done this.
I want to avoid
you had a
using
problem.
$1.1 million of the
Yeah.
taxpayers' money on something that we don't need.
Correct. And maybe, like I said, in engineering, the hydraulic model is extremely important, but it's very time consuming. And so if, you know, we're not going to go for the dedicated line, I'm not going to need to necessarily do a hydraulic model on that, because I won't put that line in the model, right? So, I mean, if it's left in the project plan, I will do that. And then if that turns out to be the case that you want to remove it at that point, I guess the steps would just need to be taken to notify the state that we want to reduce our loan amount, which can happen all the way till the loan closing, right? It's just like any other loan. If you get a pre-approval for a loan, and then you go and you find a house that's less than your pre-approval, you're going to take out less money. So, you know, it's a similar approach when it comes to this, just the state's money.
I think the recommendation I'd like to make would be to leave it to approve it as presented, with knowing the option that we can meet with the Water Authority, the DPW, with Mr. Loper and Anthony maybe, and discuss these concerns, and then we'll have time to make a change, like you said, before the loan closes.
In your resolution, you have people authorized to sign for the loan, so that's where those people will be authorized to be the loan signatories. So you have checks and balances and moving forward with this loan at all times.
So I'm going to retract my previous motion
Okay.
and make a motion to approve the WSRF project plan as presented. All right, so we have a motion, we have support. So now I read it. Do I start with whereas? The following resolution was offered by and supported by, you know that. Whereas the Township of East China recognizes the need to make improvements to its existing water treatment and distribution system. And whereas the Township of East China authorized Project Control Engineering Incorporated to prepare a project plan which recommends the construction of installation of 17,600 feet of 12-inch diameter HDPE pipe along River Road, Orchard, Walnut, and Point Drives by directional drilling. Installing new magnetic inductive water meters at the intersection of Bree and St. Clair Highway and on Recor near the East China Township west boundary line. Abandoning 5,500 feet of water main along Meisner Road and connecting residential services to the existing 12-inch water main. Installation of 3,300 feet of 12-inch diameter HDPE pipe starting from the intersection of Bree Street and River Road, then west along Bree, north along South Riverside Ave, west along Hathaway Street, north on Catherine, ending at the North Water Tower. Whereas said project plan was presented at a public hearing held on June 21st, 2021, and all public comments have considered and addressed. Now therefore be resolved that the Township of East China formally adopts said project plan and agrees to implement the selected alternative number 2. Be it further resolved that the East China Township Supervisor, position currently held by Brian Roush, and the East China Township Manager, position currently held by Cynthia Paparelli, are designated as the authorized representative for all activities associated with the project referenced above, including the submittal of said project plan as the first step in applying to the State of Michigan for a drinking water state revolving fund loan to assist in the implementation of the selected alternative. That being said, roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Trustee Natz?
No.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. All right, motion carries. New business 4. Agreement for the pond guy to do the annual special assessment aquatic cleaning of the canals and a bunch of parcels. So this was approved, I believe, by the previous board, the special assessment, it just was never implemented. So this is just looking for us to sign the agreement in the amount of the $11,800 per year. That is not coming out of township pocket. It is special assessed on taxes for those residents.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll support.
We have a motion, we have support to approve a 5-year agreement with the pond guy in the amount of $11,800 per year. Authorize township supervisor to sign said agreement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock?
Yes.
Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. Excuse me. New business number 5. Gary's been very patient here.
Yeah.
So basically, we discussed this at the last meeting. The action we're looking for is to authorize the supervisor to sign the 5-year contract. Gary,
Contract extension,
Contract extension, yes. So-
everything in the existing or pre-existing contract will still be applicable. And most of this is about pricing. And I look at this, and I've been with 3 different companies that have gone belly up, and I'm not sure it's a great business to be in. I mean, you're looking at $3 a week for somebody to come by and pick up your garbage, as opposed to you taking it to the landfill, gas mileage there and back, and then a bag and all that other good stuff. So I think it's a good deal, of course, I would say that. And so I guess I'm here if there's any questions to see if we can proceed with the approval of this extension.
So, I don't think there's too many issues. We discussed it at the last meeting. We talked about the recycle bins being crappy, but the ability to get more of them as needed. So I think that was the biggest outstanding question. Outside of that, I think everybody's been agreeing that it's reasonable rates, and locking in was a good idea, so.
Yeah, a real good idea.
Yeah.
I had Pigeon call me today. Their contract isn't up for another 2 years, and they want me to come in and introduce a whole new contract extension because cost is really going up. Cost of drivers now is like, I think I should be a driver instead of a salesman.
Did you make a motion? Why don't you make the motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the 5-year agreement.
Too late.
So we have a motion, we have a support to authorize the supervisor to sign the 5-year agreement for services with Mterra, based off of the existing conditions from the contract extension. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock? Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Sandra, I think, I'm surprised you're back.
Yeah.
You
Yes,
get
I.
away and then you bring you back.
Funny how that happens.
Anyways, thanks, folks.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Bye-bye, good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, new business number 6, township hall lighting. So this came up, my background's electrical, I've been looking around. We got 14 different color light bulbs, we got some that aren't working, ballasts that need to be changed, some emergency lighting that's not working. I looked at the contractor that got awarded the generator project while they're on site to retro out all the lights in the building to LED. Their price came in at $11,490. Looking at the generator project itself, after we use some of the money for the DPW trailer, we still have a $15,400 budget left that we could do this project out of. And then just for the LED versus fluorescent light, based on 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, we would be saving $1,134 annually in electricity by going to these LEDs. Not to mention, they look modern, and if you get into the office here, these lights are all kind of at least similar. We have acrylic lenses, we have some of these, they're all over the map, so.
Is this all the bulbs in this building?
Yes.
What is that?
Every light fixture with a complete new light fixture.
Okay.
That'd be almost the same price just to change them all to LED lamps.
Outside the doors?
Those two as well, those two canister lights. Yeah. He didn't put that in here, but we did discuss that.
Did we get any other quotes, or?
No, I had them just quoted because they were already gonna be on site, so we kinda saved the mobilization costs.
Didn't we, I know I've heard other people talking in the office, didn't we, put some LEDs already, like some are,
I put a couple LED lamps in Cindy's office because she had 2 light bulbs out of 12 working,
okay,
but those are $12 a piece. Most of these fixtures are either 3 or 4 lamps, so I mean, you're looking at $50 a piece. And they're still
Right.
lamps, and there'd be actually more labor intensive to change all those, because you gotta cut the ballast out of them. So,
okay.
And then we
I
still
thought
end
there
up
was some
with the-
new ones, the skinnier ones in there in the office.
just in Cindy's office in my
Okay.
place, because I changed them myself,
Okay.
so.
I don't know, I just have some other concerns if, I mean, we're doing all these updates to the office. We have wallpaper that's peeling, it looks horrible, and then we have these windows here that the breezes, you know, they come through constantly. I don't know. I mean, I think there's other areas where the money could be spent, you know, the peeling wallpaper is a big concern too. I mean, we do have lights that work where we don't have things coming down from the
They don't
walls.
look so good.
They
I
hurt
know.
my eyes.
I know they don't look good,
Yeah,
but,
I would say a little bit at a time, maybe, then maybe next year we look into the wallpaper. I mean, this is something
Right.
that's gonna pay for itself over
yeah.
the next 8 years. There is a small DTE rebate, I didn't put in here because I wasn't able to research it in time, but there's a lighting rebate credits for changing, but I don't think it's gonna amount to that much, maybe $500 or $600.
Still.
Yeah.
Can we get another quote just to compare?
We can. So, we need to make a motion to table this until the next meeting, we'll get a couple other quotes.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion of support to table new business 6. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, table. All right, new business number 7, resolution to the CW SRF authorized representatives, which is basically, as Anthony said, the same thing as what we just did, approving myself and Cindy to be signers for this loan. We gotta read this whole thing. So, do we gotta make a motion before we read it?
You gotta read
All
it.
right. Minutes of a regular meeting of the Township Board of East China, County of St. Clair, Michigan on the 21st day of June 2021. Following resolution was offered and supported by, whereas the Township of East China recognizes the need to assign representatives for tasks such as signing of the financial documents associated with the loan for the project. Now therefore, be it resolved that the East China Township Supervisor, the position currently held by Brian Roush, and the East China Township Manager, Cynthia Paparelli, are designated as the authorized representatives for all activities associated with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan. Roll call, please.
Are you offering?
Well, the motion, sorry.
Okay. Okay. All righty, roll call vote. Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock? Trustee Knotts?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yeah.
Clerk Smith? Yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes. All right, we're getting there. New business 8, which was a new item. Employee 00048 has been here now for, 28 days, Sydney? 29 days? So we just wanted to get this in front of the board so that upon her 30 days, which could either be tomorrow or Wednesday, we look at giving her the bump that was discussed during the interview process of 50 cents per hour. I've been extremely happy with what I've seen out of her so far. I think she has a lot of great input too, so I will make the motion to grant the rate of $15.50 per hour starting next payroll.
I
Support.
All right, we have a motion, we have support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Blackstock? Trustee Natz?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Treasurer Hart?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Roush?
Yes.
I do have one question. Do you need to add in the other 50 cents after 90? That was on the front here, but that's not what you made a motion for.
No, the motion was just for the 30 at this point.
Okay.
All right, and then, I think last but not least here, so. New business 10.
Can I have a clarification of when that's effective?
I thought it said next payroll. Yeah, so next payroll after the 30 days.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
All right, new business 10. So, I wrote it out here, basically. They're doing some work up in St. Clair that's going to affect Oak Street. Oak Street has 7 East China residents and 1 St. Clair resident that access that road off of their primary residence. They came to us with some budgeted proposals from their contractors that will already be on site at a total of $115,000. So we kind of went back and forth as to what percentage of it we're using, our residents are using versus theirs. It's technically their road. So I know there's been in the past conversation about why would we pave a road that's not ours. However, it's our residents that use that road more than not. So what we came to no agreements. I told them we'd come to the board here. They're looking for us to pay 60% of that cost, which is about $69,000. In exchange, instead of 50-50, splitting it 60-40, and then they will handle all the maintenance on the road for the life of the road.
Is it a county road then? Is it going to become a county road or?
I believe it will still remain a city road, but we would be paying towards having paved roads for our residents. So there's nothing we have to agree on tonight. It's just basically looking to see some feedback on if you would like me to continue with the discussion and have them get firm bids on this project.
What are might want to ask the residents along that road that belong to us, of course, what they're feeling about the whole thing.
We've had some.
Maybe we talking about assessing them for it? For paving them? We sometimes do that.
Yeah.
We're doing fix a road, change a road from gravel to pave, assessing the residents along the road. Do they want to do that?
Right, this is something we could discuss.
So the problem that I see with it is that, like, down Point Drive, there's several off streets like those people that were here earlier. And like off on, I think it's Orchard and other places, like, I think they might get really pissed if we do something like that. And I think,
Right.
I mean, I do think it's good that you'd get that agreement with St. Clair, but at the same time, because I talked with some people over on Oak a while back, and they were very much in favor of paving it, but at the same time, like, after I got on the board and read that red book, not the communist one, but the thing is, like, that's not really our responsibility, unfortunately, and if we do it for one, at that point, people that have been complaining for years to get their street paved by us, they're gonna be really.
We gotta keep in mind that they have.
Speak a little bit to that it's a city street. Any road in the township would have to meet engineering standards to become a dedicated county road. And I don't believe that those roads would ever be
There's not
considered
enough room there.
by the county
Yeah.
to
No.
adopt.
Exactly.
We have tried to do that before. We were trying to do Lovelly Lane and White Thing down on the bottom there by Meister Road.
Yeah.
And
So I know,
we-
although it looks like
We even had a good
that it's apples
citizen
and
who went
oranges.
around and tried to
I think
get
they're
all
private
the
roads.
residents to agree to give us
Yeah.
sufficient right-of-way so that we could build a county-level road down through there, which the county then takes over and maintains. The residents wouldn't do it, so some of these residents would like to talk to you about one thing, but then again,
There are other factors that play into
we
it.
tried to do Meredith Road down there off of 29. down there, the Marine City line that goes down across, goes down the river is about a block that goes down toward the river. They weren't interested in paying any kind of money for it or giving us any kind of right of way. So, they still, I think you guys probably still go down there and dump a bunch of gravel in every once in a while, but that's about it. So I understand what you're saying, but I guess what I'm saying is, a lot of those people that are complaining, would complain that they don't have a lot of standing. This one is, it's the city street. Are we gonna, what you're saying is that we would donate some money, so to support St. Clair paving a city street.
Be the first question.
I have a little trouble with that one.
Do we have the money?
That'd be part of researching this and figuring that out.
I mean, most of our street pavement jobs are
Right.
partnerships with the county.
Right.
We've exhausted that, I believe, this year with
Match
the second
money.
half of Bell River, correct?
The county won't almost have any money to pave a city street in St. Clair.
No, we usually pick up half the tab for that, and I think we've exhausted that
Yeah,
amount for this year.
But else on our own roads,
Road money.
not a St. Clair City Street.
I see no problem with researching. I still don't know how I feel about it, but I see no problem researching and
When is this project that they're doing?
It's coming up here in
Coming-
July, so
Oh.
it's pretty quick
So it's
pace.
kind of,
Well, yeah, we can leave it at that. I mean, I can look into it a little bit more. It sounds like the board would not be in favor of going with this currently. I just gotta give St. Clair something like, yeah, we're semi-interested or we're not at all interested, and so. Obviously, making sure that we have money to do it would be a big item.
You know, $69,000 and there's 7 residents, I believe. It's $10,000 a residence, they're spread it over 10 years on their taxes and make it, if they really want it, that would be a way to do it. And they're paying for getting their road done, and we could front the money and collect it back off taxes with the assessment district. And like I said, 10 grand over 10 years, not be a lot. They might be willing to.
I believe, though, to set up a special
How bad
adjustment
they want to
district,
it takes time
they
and
would have to give
notifications
us a
and-
petition,
Yeah.
to petition us to do that,
They'd have
I
to have a
believe.
petition to do it, yes, from them.
There are
Right.
instances where if the township believes it's in the best interest of the township as a whole to take a project on, then impose that cost. That is an option, but this might not fit that situation.
right.
Usually it's safety, health, welfare.
Whatever.
Well, I think we'll do a little bit more research and maybe we'll come back to this. So there's really no vote necessarily needed tonight. I don't think we really have to table it either, 'cause it's.
Right, just discussion.
So moving into announcements, that's it for business, thank God. Moving into announcements. One thing I have is that the assessor contract is expired this month. We do have rates in place per their original contract that's month to month, split their full salary or their full contract divided by 12, so we're paying nothing extra to keep month to month. So I don't see a reason to extend their contract. At this point, we have it where we're just month to month and we're not charging anything, we're not paying anything extra. So that was just a kind of announcement. Outside of that, I don't think I have anything else. So we,
But we are going to meet with them and do a new contract, or we just?
no, we're just gonna stay month to month.
Okay,
Like I said, it costs us nothing extra. And we
Right.
have the availability at that point to
that way we're
not be
not
locked into a
locked in.
contract, yeah. All right, going into member comments. I'll start with trustee Babel.
Just wanted to let everybody know that the Red Brick Schoolhouse was open for an open house, and we had a very good, attendance, and a lot of people came in. And we have done some landscaping around the schoolhouse also, at a cost of $75, nothing like the cost of the landscaping around here. So it's done, and it looks nice, and invite everybody to come and look at it.
Very good.
Trustee Blackstock.
Nothing, thanks.
Trustee Richley.
just really quick, I want to thank Mrs. Babel on Cindy, for just the committee, like, I think you did a lot of work, and I thank you for that, so, thank you.
Trustee Knotts?
Two things. Last week, early, they took off the blackboards and everything off of the basketball court on Riverside and Elmwood back there, and they've not been replaced. There's nothing sticking up but the poles.
That'd be a park question, I believe. Yeah. We'll have to,
I'd like to find out what's going on, They got this basketball season, they take the nets away. They didn't take the nets away, they took the whole blackboard off, whole thing is sticking up, there's the pole.
yeah, we can throw an email out to the parks and look into that.
The second thing is, I mentioned last time, the grass at the empty lot on the corner of Elmwood and Riverside, northwest corner, hadn't gotten any shorter. It's about 2 feet tall now. This is one of the ones that township has had to mow a couple times a year for the last, I don't know how long. I guess, hopefully it's getting nailed on, put onto their taxes each time that we do it.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Follow up.
All right, yeah, we'll follow up with that. Treasurer Hart?
Nothing.
Clerk Smith?
I just have one, I guess, comment or thought about, as part of that presentation about the engineers looking at redoing the DPW facility or building a new one or whatever they do. Just in the back of our minds, I guess in thinking of a new, bigger open space, if there could be any consideration for the possibility of using a big open space like that for election time, if the space could be emptied and cleared to be, we're getting packed. Wendy and I have been considering going back to the 2 precincts. We've been going back and forth, but I really almost see no benefit, only just the fact that we've always split this room in half and maximized the space, but with the whole COVID thing and new kind of thinking about all that, we're just going to maximize our booths in here, but we're kind of outgrowing the space for elections. So I don't know if that could be part of a consideration for how they design the open spaces for the new, if they end up going down on Recor Road.
Is there,
maybe utilized?
yeah. Has there ever been any conversation with the school about using maybe the lobby of the Performing Arts Theater? Because you'd have a lot of parking, you'd have a lot of room in that lobby.
Well, no, there hasn't.
And they're going to be having that new virtual academy building too.
It's I guess with people being able to come in and register to vote the same day as an election, the clerk needs to be, have that internet access to the QVF and to have everything you need in your office to do the day and have different locations. It gets very
I was just asking.
scary.
So a separate site really wouldn't help you then if it's way over
Well,
there.
if it was our own facility, I think we move the whole thing.
But you'd have to be in both spots if
It's a
somebody wanted to register
consideration.
there and here.
Wendy and I would have to split our
Yeah.
spots, but for future thought.
We'll see what they come back with on the draft ideas and anything else?
Nope.
Okay. The only other comment I have is that virtual school. They do have a groundbreaking this week, so it's exciting to see that get going. Outside of that, motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:29 would be in order.
So moved.
I support.
All right, we have a motion, we have support to adjourn the meeting at 9:29 on June 21st. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you for your time.